Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I have the updated 9.2 Rep Paladin guide, PvE guide in general here, and we're just going to update the previous guide. If you want the nitty gritty, you'll go back to the official 9.2 guide, and then you come here for the update, right? It's kind of in sequential order. This is how I've always done it. I haven't had to do a lot of updates in Shadowlands, but we just update as we go. If there's another big change to Paladins, there'll be an update number 2 for 9.2. So there's some pretty big changes to Ret, some pretty big buffs, and it does change a little bit of the playstyle. I'll talk a little bit about why that is as well. And I'm very excited for it because these are changes that I like to see. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. There's also going to be things that don't change, so we won't be touching on everything because a lot of things really don't change as well. So the biggest thing for me that changes is the talents with the buffs. So if you don't know what the buffs are, even the buffs are like 10% Divine Storm damage, 10% Wake of Ashes damage, and another second up to 4 seconds on our Seraphim procs from the 2 set. Now, obviously, I'm gonna have to assume you at least have the 2 set, and if not the 4 set. If you only have the 2 set, the talent thing could vary a little bit. But once you have the 4 set, it really should be pretty one-sided, as what I'm about to tell you here. So we're going to assume you have the 4 set. Eventually you're going to have the 4 set. The Creation Catalyst comes out next week, and everyone can start building up to their 4 set. Even if you only have 1 piece right now, you'll at the very least have 2 next week. So everyone can start building up to their 4 set. And maybe the Creation Catalyst should have come out earlier. That's a whole nother video. But we will all have our 4 set at some point. So currently, like before the buffs, there was a lot of variance really, but predominantly, especially if you only had the 2 set. If you had the 4 set, that's where the variance would come in more. But if you had the 2 set, you would use like Seraphim Final Reckoning for single target. So you're still kind of on the 1-minute build. You're just not using Execution Sentence. However, with these changes, with the extra second of Seraphim, even on single target, even if you only have the 2 set, it'll probably, I'm going to say probably because it is a chance that it doesn't, it'll probably simulate better for you to use Divine Purpose and Sanctified Wrath, even on single target. This is really cool because this is just a change in playstyle, which is what tier sets are supposed to do. I've been using Seraphim Final Reckoning for the entire expansion on single target, so to have a change of playstyle on single target is actually pretty cool. So with the change, your talents for both single target and AoE simulations will likely be Zeal, Blade of Wrath, Divine Purpose, and Sanctified Wrath. For some people, when you simulate single target, so like raid bosses and stuff like that, Crusade could at the moment simulate better, but I do think that that's probably because you have low haste, like a low amount of haste, and so the Crusade haste bonus is like a extra bonus for you because your haste is so low, because you were probably playing like still a version of the 1-minute build where you don't need a lot of haste. But the more haste you get, the better it feeds into this tier set. So feel free to add more haste first of all. But Crusade could simulate better for you for single target. You do want to check that out for single target, until you get more. And I'm speculating here that it's a haste problem, but until you get more haste, and then I imagine Sanctified Wrath will simulate better for you. That's how it simulates on the profile, right? So if you have the best gear for this patch, so you have full mythic gear, full 278, 285, whatever the highest it can be is, the best possible gear, the best simulation is Zeal, Blade of Wrath, Divine Purpose, Sanctified Wrath. So I imagine it's just like a stats issue, right? So this is really cool. I will talk a little bit about why this is. I know a lot of people are confused about things. I get some pretty strange comments sometimes. I get a lot of really good comments, first of all, that I appreciate. But I get some really strange comments. Some people don't really know what they're talking about, I guess. This is so what happened is on the let's just get off that. What happened on the PTR is we started off at 2-second procs on Seraphim. It also overwrote our actual Seraphim, which got people using Divine Purpose to begin with. And I think that might have been their goal in a very janky, terrible way. They're like, oh look, the Seraphim proc ruins your talent, so now you have to pick Divine Purpose here. And like this isn't working properly. And so like they fixed it, and as soon as they fixed it, then yeah, Seraphim was still the best talent with only 2 seconds. They buffed it up to 3 seconds towards the end there, and that made it a lot closer, especially with Forset, whether Divine Purpose or Sanctified Wrath were better than Seraphim and Final Reckoning. It was very, very close. On the simulations, they were within 1% of each other. You'll hear me say that on the Rep Paladin guide for 9.2. They're within 1% of each other. Now, with this additional second of Seraphim on the proc, up to 4, which is doubled from the initial PTR, it now is, tipping in the favor of the Divine Purpose Sanctified Wrath. This is because you're getting more uptime of Seraphim without even having to pick the talent, and with Divine Purpose, a lot of times you're going to, literally a lot of times, like during a fight, even a single target fight, right? You're going to get multiple procs of your Divine Purpose. Not at once necessarily. You could happen at once, but you're going to get multiple procs of your Divine Purpose during a Seraphim and during your wings. And the wings last longer with Sanctified Wrath. So you could get, let's say, it's completely possible for you to have 12 seconds or more, but 12 seconds of Seraphim up during your wings, and for you to get more spenders in via Divine Purpose, because of Divine Purpose procking, into those Seraphims than you would with a full 20-second duration of Seraphim up, which you would likely, you're going to have, with the 4-second, you're probably going to have very high uptime of Seraphim when you pick the talent. But wings only last 20 seconds, and you're going to get less spenders into the wings than you do with the Divine Purpose. If you can follow all of that, it basically just if they made it 5-second Seraphim, then you're just going to have Divine Purpose be even better. The only time that it would probably swing back the other way is if you literally had 100% uptime of Seraphim, to where it was never down, and therefore it was always up during your wings. But even then, that means that the Divine Purpose is having a lot more Seraphim as well. So I don't even know that would swing it back. I think Divine Purpose with this configuration is just a better talent. And I think that's what they were going for all along. And they've been trying to hit the sweet spot of Seraphim to make the talent better and make people choose the talent. Not make people choose the talent, but tier sets are meant to change your playstyle. That's just the way they're meant to be. And I think that's just what they've been going for. And if so, that very well played by them. Obviously, I wish this would have happened sooner. A lot of people were calling for 4-second Seraphim on the PTR. We got 3, but a lot of people were calling for 4. And yeah, we got it now, and it's pretty cool. It's really fun to play this way. I like just having a longer wings in general, right? I kind of like that. So pretty cool. So Covenant so that's the talents. Basically, Divine Purpose, Sanctified Wrath are best in slot now. If you simulate, it'll probably be that, even if you only have the 2-piece. If you can simulate yourself with the 4-piece, you'll see more of what I'm talking about. And then, like, even if you don't have the 4-piece, you like put that gear in as your gear, and you'll probably see more of what I'm talking about. And it's by a decent margin as well. It's not a small margin that is better. Small and big, I guess, are very subjective. So maybe it is small to you, but just the fact that it's an easier play style as well, right? Final Reckoning, everything has to be grouped if it's AoE. Final Reckoning, you have to either cast Heretical or cast on Self. If you cast on Self, that means you have to be right next to it. It's a lot different than Sanctified Wrath and Divine Purpose, which are just completely passive, right? Less buttons to press, etc. So let's just quickly go over everything else. That's the biggest changes, going to be the talents, and I am going to mention some Conduit stuff as well. So Covenant, we're still going to be Kyrian. Now this is a huge buff to Necrolord AoE. Necrolord is already decent at AoE, and this is a big buff to Necrolord AoE. Now I've said all along as well that I think Necrolord is going to be played in Mythic Plus keys. Maybe I'll just be the one to try it out and compete them against each other by doing actual keys. But Kyrian's also really good at Mythic Plus right now as well with these buffs, because Divine Toll is just a really good spell. With Forge Light Soulbind, it's on a lower cooldown, and you're just popping out Divine Tolls constantly and filling up your Holy Power all the way and doing more Divine Storms. So it's a very strong one too, right? So it's not like Like Kyrian got stronger in Mythic Plus, but so did Necrolord. So we'll see on that. Kyrian's still overall the best. If you want to try out Necrolord and Mythic Plus, feel free to do it. Compare it to your Kyrian stuff. Let me know how it is, because I don't know when I will actually try it out. But as of now, I would say Kyrian's still the best in basically all content for the most part. I mean, just completely, I guess, is not for the most part. Kyrian's still the best Covenant overall to choose, and that didn't change. Legendaries, the last thing I'll talk about is conduits and stuff, because I do want to make a correction there. Legendaries are the same. Tempest, Divine Tempest legendary got stronger because Divine Storm got stronger, right? Tempest of the Lightbringer. So this is probably just going to be like, so some people were speculating of using like a Vanguard's Momentum or something in Mythic Plus, or one of the Magistrate's Judgment, right? But Tempest of Lightbringer is probably just the way to go with your Unity now, because Divine Storm is 10% stronger, and that's really good, and that makes your Tempest of Lightbringer stronger. So you'll notice like your base damage of your Divine Storm, if you factor in the bonus of Tempest of the Lightbringer, the Divine Storm damage plus the Tempest of the Lightbringer damage are very actually close to your Templar's Verdict damage, your single target ability. So yeah, it's just a really good legendary. It already was a good legendary, and now it's even better. So the only change to legendaries I would say is you kind of just need Tempest of Lightbringer and Final Verdict. And then I guess if I mean, I guess that's all you really need. I'm trying to think of like a raid fight where that wouldn't be the case. And then Mythic Plus, you'd always want to use it as well. But I'm sure there might be a niche case for like a Vanguard's Momentum or Magistrate's Judgment or whatever. But for the most part, Tempest and Final Verdict are pretty much the only two you should need now for the most part. For most content and for most players at, the average skill level and stuff like that. So legendaries, mostly the same. Tempest Lightbringer better. People already really weren't using the other legendaries in the raid as it was, so not a huge change there. Just it's even better than it was before. Stats wise, again, I mentioned haste. That was already going to be good with this tier set, right? So haste is strong for you. You don't want to be sitting at like 10% haste anymore. I would say, just as a general number, these are general numbers. You need to simulate your character, the whole spiel, but you want to be over 20% haste, and honestly probably pushing higher than that, right? 30%, whatever. Haste is your friend in this patch for the most part. You don't want to not have any of the other stats, but as you get more gear and can have more haste without killing yourself on other stats, having more haste is good. I did want to make some corrections to the conduits and talk about the conduits a little bit more. So with the general, let's just go single target, multi-target, right? So single target in raid, bringing clarity, Templar's Vindication, and then Virtuous Command are going to be, sorry, brain fart. And then Virtuous Command are going to be like your best single target conduits, right? And you're going to want to follow like the left side of Forge Light Prime and everything like that. For just general AoE, you'll want to, if you only have your 2-piece, Experg is going to simulate very well for you because you only have your 2-piece, so some of your Blade of Wraths are not turning into Wake of Ashes. So that's likely going to be in there no matter what. And that could even simulate better than Ringing Clarity for single target for you, for pure single target fights. So that's just with 2-piece though. With 4 set that actually goes away, so you don't have to worry about that. For multi-target in a raid or whatever, Experg is still good to use. You would swap that out for the Templar's Vindication, like on your left side path there. But they're the biggest, and I believe I covered all of that in the Ret guide. But in my Mythic Plus guide, I actually did kind of make a little mistake there, and I wanted to correct that. So especially with the buffs to Truce Wake, or to Wake of Ashes, Truce Wake Conduit becomes kind of a must in Mythic Plus. So what you kind of want to do is you want to follow down the left side, but then go down the middle with Hammer of Genesis, which is what I said to do. But instead of having like Virtuous Command or something there, or Experg, you actually probably want to put your Truce Wake there as your last potency conduit, and that will do a lot more damage, like you'll simulate if you try to. There's a million ways to try to simulate Mythic Plus, but Truce Wake is actually really really good, and especially with the Wake of Ashes buff. So that is one difference there. As far as rating and stuff goes, and general play, non Mythic Plus play, I should say, it's going to be pretty much the same as what I said in the guide, because I was already accounting for having the 4 set, and having the 4 set was already leaning towards the current play style, and then the buffs just like enhanced it even more. So it was already leaning that way. So that's a correction there. In Mythic Plus, use Truce Wake. It's really good. So don't miss out on using Truce Wake in Mythic Plus. That would be the big correction there. And I actually think I might have said to try Truce Wake in the actual 9.2 guide that was non-Mythic Plus related, like non-Mythic Plus focused, and then I for some reason did not say it in the actual Mythic Plus guide. So that's just a mess up on my part there. Other than that, I think that's about it. I can mention trinkets. Trinkets are a rough thing right now. There's multiple different ideas or opinions on this. So some people for Mythic Plus say to go ahead and use like 2 passive trinkets instead of using an on use. I've advocated using 2 on uses, so you have on use up for every time. So you have on use up for like every single pack. That's a possibility as well. 2 passives is good because Old Warrior Soul is so good, right? If you have one of those, it's so good that you can always just have it on. But that's really up to you. Trinkets don't really change anything for this. I know IQD simulates really, really well. Of course, there is some downsides with IQD as well. So as far as trinkets go, it's mostly the same as what I said in the other guide. But I'll just say there's some ambiguity there. And if you can simulate your character, trinkets are going to be the number one thing you're going to want to look at that isn't necessarily fully defined and fully being used. Obviously, the most things being used in Raid are Old Warrior Soul from Sanctum of Domination, and then the first Vigil trinket. Those are the things most being used by Raid in Raid right now. But when it comes to other content, and just some players who have some randomly really good parses are using some other trinkets, it is a little bit ambiguous. For now, though, if you have access to those 2 trinkets, especially in raiding content, Old Warrior Soul, First Vigil, completely fine there. Even with the changes to the buffs to Rat. Not the changes, the buffs. You know, we actually got buffs, so let's say it loud and proud there. So that's it for this. Biggest change is to the talents, which somewhat affects your gameplay. Affects your abilities, at least, right? So pretty cool there. I'm very excited for it. If there's any more big changes, which I don't think there will be, but if there's any more big changes, I'll cover those as well. And yeah, good luck to everyone out there. Hopefully you're having as much fun playing Ret as I am right now. I'm blasting in keys, doing okay in Raid. Well, I'm doing good, decently for parsing, but not necessarily good in the overall as far as other classes just being better. But these buffs go a long way to helping that. So good luck, everybody. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.